Well, now let's move on to our next panel discussion of the day, titled The Impact of Technology on Lives. In this session, the panelists will discuss how technology is impacting lives of individuals and businesses both. For this session, we would like to invite Ankit Maheshwari, Chief Technology Officer and founding team member, Innovator; Sandeep Gupta, CDIO, Kane Oil and Gas; Atul Govil, Chief Transformation Officer and Head, SAP and IT, Corporate India Glycols; Kaustubh Dabral, Global CIO, Dabur India. And to moderate this session, we would like to invite Roshan Povaiya, Editor, FE Digital. Please join me in welcoming our speakers up on the stage.
Thanks, Vibhav. I hope the day has been going pretty interesting for all of you all, and you've been getting a lot of valuable inputs. I think this session is something that everybody can resonate with. It's called the Impact of Technology on Lives. But I'm not really going to keep it on the B2C side, because you all know the kind of impact technology is having on your lives. I think at least 50% of the people in the room right now are on their mobile phones. So I would also request you to keep your mobile phones on silent. And we'll just run through, because I've got a very diverse set of panelists over here from different industries. We've got Ankit, who's from Innovator, and they cater to the healthcare pharma space. I've got Kaustubh, who's the global CIO for Dabur, again in the FMCG space. I've got Sandeep, who's in the oil and gas space with Kane. And of course, Atul with India Glycols, again, both in pharma and in alcohol and various businesses there. So technology over here has a very different connotation, because they're going to be using technology in very different ways. So let me just start first with Atul. We all use apps, right? So on the B2C side, we're all familiar with, how it has changed the way we shop, the way we commute, the way we, communicate, everything. Apps have changed the way we do things. But on the business side, what are the kind of top 3 tech innovations that you've seen that have made a difference in recent years?
Thank you. I think that's an interesting question, because what we clearly see is, and I take you just back maybe 10 to 15 years back, wherein technologies which we used to use in our B2B domains were far ahead, and they were far evolved, so to say, than what we were currently seeing in the consumer domain. But in the last 7, 8, 10 years, what we have seen is it's the whole scenario, and the B2C and the consumer business has changed, and it has evolved to a very different level. Having said that, what we see in our domain, I come from India Glycols, we are into chemicals, petrochemical products. We also have a liquor pharma division, and medical oxygen as well we make here. So what we have clearly seen is that earlier we were harping on process automation. We used to have these PLCs, DCS control systems and interlocks and other systems in place. But now, as we speak, what's happening is we have started looking at technologies like IoT. We are looking technologies like analytics on top of it. And then we are also looking at process automation in a very different schema, in terms of automating mundane repeat processes by using robotic process automation and tools. And whilst we do all of this, we are also leveraging cloud big time, because what we know of cloud, many of you would know about what cloud offers. But what it also, I want to call out for B2B businesses like us, cloud also gives us that convenience to switch on or switch on off any app or application or solution which we want to deploy. Because earlier we used to invest in large infra to set up the solution, the backbone of the solution. Today, with these SaaS offerings available, we can go to one of these providers, maybe subscribe, pay on a pay-as-you-use model, and maybe deploy some solution, maybe for an IoT-based analytics solution, which can help us drive decision support. And using that, no, if it works, it works. Otherwise, no, you fail fast and maybe identify a next level of or next levers which can drive productivity and efficiency in your workplace. So broadly, no, yeah.
Right. Sandeep, IoT and cloud, a couple of things that Atul mentioned. In the oil and gas space, what are the tech innovations that have really made a difference? Say if we take the same time frame, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, if you ask me, and again, just to give you a brief background, I come from Kane Oil and Gas. It's an upstream oil and gas organization. So basically, we have assets in Rajasthan and different parts of India, where we actually drill wells and then we extract, and then there's a pipeline which actually goes to the port of Gujarat, where we give it for further processing and refining of the oils. So this is the industry which we operate in. Now coming back to your question, Roshan, as to what has impacted, definitely IoT is one technology area, if you ask me, that has impacted us. And recently, to give you an example, as the pipes passes, there is a steam and a condensate. So we need to avoid the steam which goes in the pipe. So sometimes it is as simple as putting sensors and measuring the temperature. So for example, if you are capturing the steam, the one end of the pipe would be at a higher temperature than the other one. As simple as that. Now we put in the sensors and we put in the IoT. Now we have more than 200 sensors. Now we can trap, if the temperature difference is not there and we trap it remotely, that trap is not working. Previously, you used to have people manually visit and find out if these traps are working or not. So I'm just giving some practical examples. These are the ones which have actually impacted us. Number two, if you ask me, would be we hear a lot about digital twins. Again, there are different variants of that. Ultimately, the simple aim is we want to maximize our production and reduce the cost. These are the two variables which we are operating in. Now, if you ask me, how have we implemented? We are doing a process digital twin across our entire gas plant. But before that, I think many of us would have been, at least from a manufacturing domain, would be aware about advanced process controller. We might be using that. So again, how you use it is a function of this. There are technologies available in the market. You have to be very clear as to, what is the benefits which you are getting around each of these technologies.
Right. Digital twin, again, that's another technology that I think across companies, everybody is using it because one, it's time saving and cost saving. There's so much that you can do. And innovation, like Atul was also saying, fail fast. You can experiment and fail fast. At Dabur, Kaustubh, can you give me a couple of examples?
Yes. So if I talk about Dabur, the main thing what we have done in terms of technology innovation is in the new product development space. If I talk about in last 2 years, we have launched close to 50 new products or variants of existing product, which means that one launch in every 2 weeks. And now you can tie it back to the R&D, the packaging, marketing, trade promotion, and all those kind of things. To meet this kind of pace of business, you require a technology intervention to automate your new product development. The second one which I want to talk about is consumer engagement. So the way we are engaging with our consumer is rapidly changing. 5 years ago, the strategy what we had to collect the consumer feedback, to address the consumer complaint has now completely changed. And now with the generative AI coming into picture, it is taking it to a completely next level. So these are the two areas where we have.
Generative AI, again, that's a whole complete day in itself. We can talk about AI. Taking it to Ankit, now you all are in a very unique space because you are completely in the B2B space, enabling your clients, hospitals, pharma companies to actually reach out to their customers. And as I understand, Innovator is not really looking at any Indian operations right now. It's all global and mainly US based.
So I think we are the ones who are bringing technology into healthcare as we speak, right? So when we started in the US space, they had so much of data when we talk about the patient data, right? Because they have been collecting it for now 10 to 15 of years. But when you see like the amount of money that they spend on healthcare, like $4 trillion. out of which $1 trillion is just sheer wastage because at the right time they don't have the right data about the patient, right? So that wastage of $1 trillion is what we are trying to solve over there with the help of getting this data from their primary care provider, from their pharma companies, from where they're getting their medication, and bringing it in front of the provider so that they can take better decisions, right? And all the movement that is happening in India right now, similar to UPI, how we are creating the digital health mission, is the path toward that. So I think the major thing that we have been able to enable, or we have seen change, is how do you make sense of the data? When we say data is the new oil in the truest of the form and impacting life, we have seen it in real time, detecting patients who are on chronic condition, diabetic conditions, basically at the right time, so that the right interventions can be made, and what kind of interventions, right? Putting analytics into that, machine learning. When you are able to see data for millions of patients, you can detect patterns. When you can detect patterns, you can suggest the right kind of procedures and medication and the care procedures for them. So I think that intervention, and what COVID did was just push the game what nobody else could, because doctors in general are very averse to technology. They are very human touch. They want to see the patient, don't want to use the computer at all. But what COVID did with virtual care and with remote patienting devices, now you have as a general device, like people use CGM, continuous glucose monitor, or basically the wrist watches, basically the Apple watches out there. So those things are becoming more and more mainstream. And with more and more adoption, that is going to become where the remote patient monitoring is going to be a very real sense of how care is delivered, right? Where you don't need to be in hospital all the time, but a doctor can view all your vitals even when you are at home over there. So I think technology has impacted a lot, and post-COVID in healthcare, it has taken a leap because of the virtual care and the remote patient monitoring piece.
Yeah. Right. And I'm guessing there's a huge amount of data being generated. And speaking of data, of course, that brings us to, the safety of data and the risks associated with handling so much of data. Across all your various industries, there's a lot of data security risks which are there. Atul, if I was to come back to you, what kind of risk do you see, especially, there are two things. One is, of course, with the workforce as well. Do you see technology actually impacting lives to such an extent that you're looking at right-sizing your workforce, or do you think that technology and human capital can exist side by side?
I think the likes of generative AI solutions which we currently see, it certainly is going to create a significant threat to the workforce which doesn't evolve. So what within the enterprise also, and also in the industry, what we are clearly seeing is it's not about periodically getting skilled or upskilled. It's about a continual learning. So earlier when we used to hire people, we used to look at people who are digitally aware. But now the situation is we are looking for people who are digitally fluent, who understand, who are adaptable, to these new age technologies, so that then only they can take us to the next level. So I also want to highlight that we come from a traditional setup, manufacturing, and wherein people stay in an organization for decades. What happens is that after 20, 30 years, if the individual has to retire, superannuate, then the new age which is coming to the workforce, they want things to be done digitally. They are digital natives. Everything they want to do is on their mobiles. So now we are finding a big challenge that unless we change the way we operate, unless we change the way we monitor our operations, control the operations, and imbibe more of digital, it will create an existential crisis for us and companies like us. So there's a push which is coming from the new age entrants, so to say. And I also want to call out that from a data security standpoint, we always think that it's about data pilferage, data theft, but we also see that so much of cyber fraud is happening. Every second day, you hear about a company getting compromised. And it's not just the data getting compromised, you find that there is fund which is diverted, siphoned from somewhere. So with digital means being used, we are now setting up a control tower to monitor that what kind of transactions are key or are extremely important, what controls are to be placed so that we can avoid certain of these incidents. And then there is second issue around misinformation being spread. Because with AI, so much of content which appears to be genuine, but it is actually a fabricated content. So how do we differentiate the right content vis-a-vis something which is fabricated? So these are areas now which we are currently working on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sandeep, what about, he was talking about skill sets. I think that's an interesting thing. So the new age workforce that you're getting in, what upskilling would they require, given that technology now can do a lot of the tasks that were earlier manual tasks? So what kind of skill sets are needed now?
Roshan, that's an interesting question, because whenever we think about impact of technology, one part we always discuss is the upskilling. I think we have discussed a lot around, the skills which is required. The other part which I would like to highlight, which usually get missed, is the process part of it. So whenever we implement technology, we need to change our processes according to the technology. And I'll give you an example. And in fact, I'll give you a couple of examples, very practical ones. So we speak about predictive analytics. Usually how that works is that you have a periodic inspection which is carried on, but you implement a predictive analytics solution which is then on-demand kind of an inspection which is needed. We still have recommendations coming out from predictive analytics, but we still have people actually who go on a routine-based inspection. So you have to change the processes based on the technology. Another example, what we realized when we were doing digital twin, it will give you set points. For example, to get the maximum production, you need to have a certain pressure and a temperature. But then you are dependent on the operators to implement those set points. So you need to change your processes where you actually monitor, have those set points been changed or not. Implementing technology is one part of it. The implementing the process part of it is very important. And very quickly coming back to, what is the skill set required, I think it's very clear that either you build those skill set in-house or you get it through a third-party vendors. You need to have that AI, ML, other skill set, because that's where you get the analytics and the power of intelligence which comes out of it.
Right, right. Kaustubh, I mean, technology is supposed to be a convenience for us. Like I was just mentioning, it does a lot of the work in the background. So then it actually frees up a lot of time for humans to be more productive in other tasks. At Dabur, have you seen this change come in with your tech implementation, and how have you managed to then adapt and get your human workforce to become more efficient with technology?
So the answer is yes. I mean, as and when we implemented or bring in technology intervention, we clearly found that the productivity has improved. What we have also found is that whenever we are doing any tech intervention, it is ROI driven. So when I'm saying ROI, not only in terms of the financial side, but in terms of the business value, what we are getting. Now, coming specifically to your question, recently, and I'll give you a recent example, that all this generative AI wave and those things are coming up. And it's a quite interesting anecdote. I went to my CMO and I said that, we can reduce your creative cost by implementing some of these technologies, and that can probably give you a manpower saving. And he returned and he told me that, Kaustubh, I don't want to reduce the manpower, but what I want to do more. So with your technology intervention, how can I do more with less? So basically, that is the theme we are following.
Right. So like we're saying that technology will not replace humans, but it will just aid humans to become more efficient. Yeah. So Ankit, a question for you. Are we heading to a very, especially in the healthcare field, are we heading to a very dystopian kind of future? Because with all the technology that you all are implementing, and for instance, you can track a person's complete health record from the time he was 30 till the age he was 50. And when did he develop heart disease? When did his blood pressure go up? So, does technology know more about you than you know about yourself? Are we coming to a stage like that?
So I won't say it's dystopian, I will say it's utopian because actually you want your providers to know about your health, right? Because see, at the end of it, you want to live longer. How do you live longer if you remain healthy, right? How you remain healthy if somebody knows basically and track your health in a much more effective manner, right? Where the disease doesn't go undiagnosed basically, or early diagnosis happen, or we have better cures basically for disease. Why we could come out of COVID however we could, because there was so much faster evolution of vaccination basically we can produce so quickly, we could iterate so quickly after doing the first. If we would have more generative AI kind of solution, we might have done it much more quicker. So I think those things is where we tend to become or be basically from a healthcare. I think getting access to healthcare data, because today your fintech companies or your e-commerce company know about more about you than your provider. So it's better that your doctor start knowing more about you. So I think that is the more scary sense, where say Amazon knows more about you basically, what are you purchasing, when are you purchasing, than basically your doctor, because you can access all that record on your mobile, but not your health record right now. So getting there where your health can be in your palm, because even today if I ask you, you will just have plenty of printouts basically or prescriptions which you will have to go in your cupboard and fetch out. You still can't get your health record on your mobile. So getting there is more utopian future, as I will say, than a dystopian future.
Right, but don't you see some risks also associated with this? Suppose
Risk is, security is the biggest risk basically. If your data gets leaked and say an employer now start taking decision because of somebody has a disease and that is why I don't want to employ that particular person. So that is the biggest thing, right? That data security, data privacy, right, has to become, and that is why in these developed, when we work in the US, right, it's not just a financial crime if your data gets leaked, it's a criminal offense basically. And the entities that are holding it, like even us basically, has to go through multiple level of security protocols, right? Even our offices in India, over when we have to go through HIPAA, BA licenses, and multiple level of security, so that the data security is prime over there. And they go to an extreme level of that, where parents cannot access their children's data after a certain age over there. So that comes with that, if you're taking so many decisions on data, the data security becomes very prime, both on a PHI point of view and PII point of view. Yeah.
Right. Okay, we're almost out of time, and I think, normally I would have taken audience questions, but since we have very little time left, I'll just take one last question for you all. In the next 2-3 years, what do you see being the biggest disruptor to technology? Is it AI, ML, or IoT is already there? Or is there a technology that you see just evolving that's going to be the next big disruptor, especially in your industry?
I think there are a couple of technologies. One is, of course, AI, applied AI, I would say, and to augment human intelligence, not to replace humans. And another is using AI for driving video analytics, so to say. Because today, there's so much of effort in manufacturing and allied industries, wherein you have a lot of supervision being done. And any supervision which you do, you cannot have a 24/7 tight vigil. No, there are areas, instances wherein humans falter. And with technology, with vision and visual analytics, there is so much which can be done, which can actually drive the whole operations to a far safer and a far productive and a far efficient method. Yeah.
In the oil and gas space, what do you see as a disruptor, Sandeep?
See, it's a tough question if you ask me, because if you see the overall cycle, it used to take almost 8 to 10 years for a technology to mature previously.
Yes.
With AI, now what it will get into is use case specific. It's pretty much mature. Now the use cases is what defines. And I think we were just discussing before this session, a year back, we didn't even think what generative AI could have done us, or what ChatGPT could actually do. So you see the cycle is crunching. It's now almost 1 year. If you ask me, a year back, at least we didn't know what it could do. So again, very difficult question. I think the time will be very quick now. what we foresee next year will be very difficult to predict.
Right. Cost of any in the FMCG space, any disruptor?
I mean, I'll concur with Sandeep, but if I still have to put a bet on it, it will be generative AI. The kind of use cases we are seeing in our industry, that is phenomenal, tremendous, whether it is a new product development, marketing to consumer, or reaching out to consumer for the feedback. It has immense potential. We have just, scratched the tip of the iceberg.
Right. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to differentiate between a bot and a human now.
Yeah. No, I think I just feel generative AI right now is at the Netscape level. What was basically, it has not even reached the Internet Explorer level basically, and with time it will just evolve and will be able to do more. It won't replace humans, but it will just open the avenues what we can do more basically, which we can't even imagine right now, be it in the healthcare space or any other space basically in technology. Yeah.
Before we conclude, because I believe we will have some startups also in the room. So I'm just thinking, from a B2B space, what we clearly see is B2B commerce. What we clearly see is we are currently only having 0.5% of the total trade traded through B2B commerce, which unlike in an evolved country like US, they are at almost 15%. Right. So that's a big space, B2B commerce. And another is the agri waste, the food waste. We are at a whopping 40% of the food totally, whatever we produce, 40% of it goes waste. And the global average is around 14%. So that's another area wherein how do we use a more constructive, far efficient supply chain for the food chain so that the wastage gets kind of optimized. That's an area maybe we can think through and have thoughts around.
I'm sure. I mean, there are so many ideas and there's a lot yet to happen in the tech space, and we live in interesting times, as I keep saying. And with that, I'd like to thank all the panelists for being here for this interesting session, because this particular topic can actually go on for a few hours. But in the interest of time, I'd like to wind it up here. Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll make way for the next panel. Thanks, people.